So, I know that I bring this up all the time, but metalcore, it can be a very finicky genre. When done right, it is done very, very right, and for the longest time I've been told that this particular band had been doing it right for almost 15 years now. I just never bothered trying to listen to them. We all have regrets, and me not listening to this band was definitely one of them. Despite the early on lineup changes, August Burns Red have garnered a strong following and are widely regarded as one of the best metalcore bands on the scene right now. I can see why. Bringing a fast-paced technicality to the genre is nothing new, but sometimes it's not about doing it differently, it's about doing it in your own way. Even though the band's name has a sad and made-up story, original singer John Hershey was dating a woman named August who burned his dog Red alive in the doghouse. That's not how they got the name, they just made it up. Their rise to their current status in metalcore is pretty much anything but sad or made up. With that said, let's get this on like Donkey Kong. This time, it's episode 3 of Backtracking Season 2, and it's August Burns Red. We start with the band's 2005 debut, Thrill Seeker, released via Solid State Records and produced by the man himself, Adam Fuckmothering Dukovich, yes, the lead guitarist of Killswitch Engage. It's a pretty decent start from the band. It's the only album to feature original bassist Jordan Tuscan and second lead singer Josh McManus, as John Hershey left the band not long before this album came out. I say the album's decent because while the band does do things their own way, they do unfortunately wind up falling into many common metalcore pitfalls. They do keep things interesting with their fast pace and positive messages, and they are a Christian band, but they don't let their faith show fully through their music, which I can appreciate. They're not trying to shove it down people's throats, and sometimes they don't even show it off at all in some songs. But yes, back to the pitfalls. The screams of vocalist Josh McManus, whilst powerful, some sound like your Diamond Dozen metalcore lead singer from time to time. The breakdowns, whilst heavy, don't sound like something that you can hear from Parkway Drive and such. But what stands out most for me is the guitar work, which is a running thing through all of their albums. It's genuinely very, very, very good, as JB Brubaker and Brent Rambler play off of each other so well, with JB being the lead guitarist and Rambler being the rhythm guitarist. Drummer Matt Grainer also does a good job in trying to give the breakdowns a unique spin, but as I mentioned, it's nothing I've not heard before personally. They're good breakdowns, don't get me wrong, and it's not even Matt Grainer's fault, he's a great drummer, but there's just nothing about them that sticks out. A lot of the songs have great starts to them, but they wind up blurring into each other and just sounding kind of similar from time to time. There are very few songs that actually keep the momentum going, such as Barbarian, A Show Below the Belt, the instrumental track Eye of the End, and my favourite amongst them all is Endorphins, which has a very beautiful message and packs a big punch. In short, Thrill Seeker is a good enough metalcore album. Oh, Shot Below the Belt, not Show. It's a good enough metalcore album, but it gets bogged down by many typical metalcore tropes from time to time. It's still worth a listen, so give it a try if you're interested. Also, I'm sorry for my constantly changing out my videos. I need to get it cut. We then move on to their 2007 sophomore album, Messengers. Released again through Solid State, but with CI having a hand as well, this album does a lot of things differently than the debut. For example, the band produces the album themselves, as does Tuay Madsen. It's also the first album to feature current bassist Dustin Davidson and current lead vocalist Jake Lurs. Secondly, it's pretty much the first to feature. Lastly, it's pretty much the first album to feature the band's signature melodic metalcore sound. Adding so many more clean elements while still keeping the aggression of metalcore is a feat in and of itself, and it pays off very well for the band here. Jake's vocal delivery is on point, and I feel that he's a much better vocalist than Josh McManus was, personally. He just fits the mold of the band much better, I think. Same with Dustin Davidson. Granted, when you listen to metalcore, you don't really look out for the bass as much, but Dustin does a really good job in chugging along to Brent and JB's riffs, not to mention providing some really good backup screaming and some clean stuff too. Excuse me. The screams themselves show quite a lot of range, and Jake sounds absolutely nothing like Josh, which is a really good thing. It's easy for a metalcore vocalist change to go unnoticed, but Jake does a damn good job of establishing his own presence on the album. And also, Matt Grainer's drumming has stepped up hugely from their debut. He sounds more like he's having fun behind the kit, providing amazing fills and some truly stellar double bass work. The band works tremendously well together, even with the introduction of the then 2 new members, and they're also good behind the booth, as is Madsen, who captured the band's sound brilliantly on the album, without overshooting anything. Standout songs include Vital Signs, Backburner, The Truth of a Liar, and my top pick is the album's closer, Redemption. Sure, it's over 6 minutes long, but it's a fantastic send-off for the album. Everything that was good about Thrill Seeker has stepped up big time in Messengers, and it definitely deserves a listen, so do it. Like now. Pause the video, go listen to it. It might take you 40 minutes, but who cares? Next up is the band's third album, Constellations, released in 2009. Sticking with Solid State, which is pretty much the band's home, Constellations is pretty damn good. The production is handled by Jason Sweckoff this time around, who is a very well-known producer in the metal community, having helped produce albums the likes of Demon Hunter, Motionless in White, and Devil Driver, just to name a few. He does a really good job in capturing the band's sound, August band's sound, by the way, I should mention, adding so many lovely little elements and sounds to things, and making everything seem polished and sounding top-notch without sacrificing the signature sound of the band themselves. Good job, Jason. Anyway, the album continues to improve upon the band's sound, including a couple of guitar solos, both of which sound fucking awesome, and Jake Lowe's vocals have come a long way. He's still doing the screaming thing and doing it very well, but his screams sound a lot more like his own this time around. He did a good job of that on Messengers, but his performance here really blows that one out of the water. Brubaker and Ramblin have failed to show how cohesive they can be as guitarists. Davidson's bass is shown more in the album, and Matt Graham's drumming continues to be the backbone of the band's sound. That's really difficult to say. Everyone just sounds fantastic, and there's not much that I can say that isn't repeating myself, with the exception of the album sound. As I mentioned, there is more polish, and it's nothing bad, but there's this nice little element of more quieter sounds from time to time, if that makes sense, and they all link the songs together very well. There's more instrumental bits here and there. Speaking of the songs, let's get to those. Standouts include Meddler, Whitewash, Mariana's Trench, Indonesia, featuring Tommy Giles Rogers from Between the Buried and Me, and The Escape Artist is probably my favourite song on the album. All in all, Constellations is an album that improves on what was then a still growing band's sound, with stellar production value and amazing cohesion. You should definitely give the album a spin. I should not have turned the camera on when I was yawning. Anyway, next in line is the band's fourth album, Leveler, released in 2011. Staying with Solid State once again, and being the last album to feature Jason Sweckoff as the producer, this is probably my favourite album of the band. There's more melody to it and much better timing. Don't get me wrong, I like that core sound of odd timing, and it's worked well for them up to this point. But it was nice of them to change things up while still keeping it fast-paced and heavy as balls. And it works well. Jason's production just sounds so crisp on the album. He also provides some percussion and additional guitar elements, which was nice. Speaking of the guitar, it's never sounded better on any album than it has on this one. There's more guitar solos, and JP Brubaker really puts some really good work into his shredding, while Brent Rambler's rhythm guitar provides a really good chug with some great riffs of his own. Dustin Davidson improves as a bassist and vocalist, and he provides amazing background screams to Jake Lowe's vocals. Speaking of Jake, his range has improved quite a lot, adding a higher pitched scream to his repertoire from time to time, along with his own signature, sort of deeper scream. Also, I wanted to bring up something I've neglected to mention, the band's lyrics. They have a much more positive tone on this album, and yet a much more serious one at the same time, making for a balanced mix of messages and stories told within the songs. And also, Matt Graham's drumming continues to amaze me. He's a good background to the overall sound, and that's very apparent on this album. All the instrumental work plays off of each other very, very well. Jake's vocals sound fantastic, and the quieter elements they explore in Constellations are kind of their own leveler, with more lovely guitar interludes. The album sounds clear in some places, but that is far from a bad thing. Standout songs include Divisions, 40 Nights, Boys of Fall, the title track Closer, and my favourite above all is Pangea. In short, listen to Leveler. It's their best output in my opinion, adding so many nice elements to the sound that just make things sound really, really, really awesome. We then arrive at album number 5, Sleddon Hill. Or to give it its full title, August Burns Red presents Sleddon Hill, a holiday album. But Sleddon Hill on its own is just a lot easier to say, so I'm going to say it like that. Released in 2012, the album is a pleasant surprise. I'll get to why soon after getting the other stuff out of the way. Released through Solid State, again, produced this time around by Carson Slovak, who does a good job, and consisting primarily of covers of Christmas songs. The album is a bit odd, but it's definitely the good kind of odd, if that makes sense. It's actually a nice, happy album to listen to. It's also the shortest album in the band's history at just under 42 minutes. And the album only has 2 new songs by the band themselves, and Jake Lowe only sings on the 7th track, which is a cover of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, and even then the rest of the band sings backup vocals with him. It's weird. Almost all the other tracks are completely instrumental, with Brubaker and Rambler playing brilliantly off of each other on guitar, actually sounding like they're having fun. Dustin's bass sounds cool, Graham's drumming sounds great as always, but what stands out is the usage of other instruments. There's violins, a banjo, a tuba, trumpets, a piano, and even the Lancaster Bible College Vocal Choir, who sing along on track 6, which is a cover of Oh Holy Night. And yet, even with these weird elements, it's a surprisingly good album. Sure, I would have liked Jake to sing more, and his only appearance on the album is him singing cleanly, but then again, it would have sounded stranger than it already is to have him screaming. Just picture him belting out the lyrics to Winter Wonderland and his signature scream. It just wouldn't sound right, you know? Standout songs, or covers as the case may be, include Oh Holy Night, Winter Wonderland, Flurries, which is one of the band's own 2 tracks, Little Drummer Boy, and I think my favourite is their cover of Jingle Bells. Sled Hill is not a bad album, but it's really only something for the holidays. By all means, I'll give it a listen. You'll find it damn near impossible to not smile even once during a run-through, and if you don't smile once, then where is the joy in your life, man? Or woman, depending on what gender is watching this. Either way, I apologise. Next up is their 6th album, Rescue and Restore. Released in 2013, it's amazing to think that the band released 3 albums in 3 consecutive years and still put out good quality stuff each year. Even more amazing that this album was released on the same day as Rise by Skillet, and I've already done an episode about them, so don't ask, and was ranked as number 2 on the Billboard Top Christian Album chart. Which is baffling because as much as I like Rise, I feel like Rescue and Restore is just a much better album than that. Carson Slovak is joined by Grant McFarlane behind the production booth, and together the two create absolute magic. They help a lot to give the album a truly epic feel and sound, and trust me, the album is epic. Even the artwork just looks awesome. This album is probably the most accessible as well, which is amazing considering how heavy it is. It throws in many of the twists and turns that Constellations and Leveler had, and it does still keep a lot of their melody from the melodic metalcore sound, but there's even more experimentation, including a guzheng. I'm pronouncing that wrong, I think. If that's not familiar to you, then I'll help. You've probably seen it in movies. It's a huge instrument with all the legs and a ton of strings on it. Kind of like a gigantic, thick neck of a guitar. If you've seen the movie Kung Fu Hustle, there's the 2 hitmen that play it anyway, yeah, kind of like that. Anyway, back to the album. To say that the band ditches their melodies in any way would be a disservice, but there is much more heaviness to the songs, with some tracks even having elements of gent metal. Brubaker and Rambler whip up some great riffs and solos to help with the sound, Matt drumming is always good, Dustin's bass keeps things going well, and his vocals mix brilliantly with Jake screams. The album in terms of message is a lot deeper, and Jake sings, or rather screams, with more emotion than I've heard before. In short, Rescue and Restore is an easy album to get into, and really nice to listen to as well. Standout songs include Provision, Fault Line Sincerity, Animals, and my favourite, In Beauty and Tragedy. Give the album a listen, it's probably their most well-known work, easily the most accessible, and some of their best stuff. And finally, we reached their 7th album, Found in Faraway Places, released in 2015. The band's most recent release, it bizarrely wasn't released through Solid State, but through Fearless Records instead, making it the band's first and only album to not be released under Solid State. Despite this, Carson Slovak and Grant McFarlane are behind the production booth once again, making their absolute magic work for the band. The album's sound is possibly the best produced, and from time to time it contains so many softer elements in terms of how the guitars sound. It's possibly the band's most well-timed album, by which I mean their time signatures are much more in line. Speaking of the time, the album is their longest at just over 52 minutes. Despite those elements and despite the runtime, the album is absolutely brilliant and serves as a great follow-up to Rescue and Restore. It's also the band's first album in the Constellations to feature guest appearances. A Data remembers Jeremy McKinnon sings on the track Ghosts, and between the Braid and Me's guitarist Paul Wagoner lends his act on the song Everlasting Ending. Ghosts is notably an easier track to listen to as Jeremy sings clean for his part, and it's a well-balanced song because of that. There's some brilliant balance on the album, and that's definitely helped by the great production and guest appearances. It's clear that the label change did not affect the band's sound in any way, and considering that they've kept the same lineup for almost a decade by the year of this album was released, it's easy to see that the band shows no sign of slowing down. Matt Graham's songwriting is top-notch, as is his drumming. JB's vocals and lyrics are brilliant, this time covering more on his faith and family. The song Identity, for example, is based on a friend coming out. Jake's vocals, I rewrote that part. JB and Brent have failed to impress me with their great guitar work, with Brubaker being absolutely fantastic and having more chances to show off with fantastic solos and interludes. In fact, I think there's more solos on this album than on any other of the band's works. He even includes some impressive tap note work on one of the songs, the name of which escapes me as of this moment in time. And Dustin Davidson's bass rocks along well enough with everyone else, as does his own vocal work. Standout songs include Identity, which was nominated for a frickin' Grammy, by the way, majoring in the minors, Separating the Seas, the brilliant closer in Vanguard, and my standout is Broken Promises, which is possibly one of the band's most personal songs. Listen to Found in Faraway Places, in short. It's a brilliant culmination of all their work up to this point, and the band still has a lot of time to grow and expand as musicians, which is something I look forward to. It just proves that they've still got a really good future ahead of them. So, that is it for the review. I'd say my least favourite album was possibly Thrill Seeker. It was a great start to their career, but without Jake on vocals and Dustin as the bassist, it felt kind of empty in places. My favourite is Leveler, without a doubt. I love Leveler. It's just so well balanced, with great riffs, awesome drumming, cool solos and Jake's vocal work and screams just sounds its best on that album. I hope that you all enjoyed this episode, and I hope that it lived up to Jason's expectations, as he's the man that requested this episode. And any other fans of August Burns Red, I hope you enjoyed it too. Yeah, next time I'll be covering one of my favourite hardcore bands, The Ghost Inside. I'm looking forward to that one. I'll see you all then. Take care, and bye-bye, and thanks for listening.